Hey folks, Ariel over here at Nyth, where today I wanted to do a video on who built my tiny house. Shockingly, with all the videos, hundreds and hundreds on the channel and stuff, I've never actually done one just on this. And this is mostly actually for a reference because it's a question I have typed out answers to many times over the last years, and so now in the future I can refer people to this video. If you want the short answer, my house was built by a Tumbleweed Tiny House Company. It was built in 2014, and so that is quite a few years ago at this point. I have no knowledge of the current state of affairs of the company. It is almost entirely a different company. There's the short answer if that's all you wanted. Have a lovely day. But for a little bit more detail, because I've never ever shared this on a video, I thought I'd actually show some of the photos of this house going up. I did not build it myself. And I think that anybody who builds their own house is super amazing. That is something I would love to be at least involved in the process of doing sometime in the future. I do not have the skills, I would say, at the moment to build a house. It is something I'm sure that I could learn, because I think probably anybody could learn, but there's certainly not skills I have. And if you want more details about how I got into this house 5, nearly 6 years ago, you can check that out in some of the earlier videos and such, so I'm not going to cover that. But I was in a situation where I needed a house to somewhere to live. I was headed into winter in Wyoming and about to be homeless, and I needed it now. And while I could have probably learned to build a house, it would have taken me a long time. I would have had to have a space to do that, and it would have taken me a long time to learn those skills as well. This house was built in, I believe, 6 days, from a flatbed trailer to a finished house, delivered a full state away to right here. Well, actually kind of right beside right here, because it was too snowy to get to right here at that time. But anyway, so Tumbleweed built it. When I started looking for a house, into tiny houses, I pretty quickly realized I was going to want somebody to build one for me, not be building my own at that particular time for the reasons just mentioned. And this was quite a few years ago, when most people's reaction when you said tiny house was still like, oh, what? Now when you say tiny house, they say, oh yeah, like those cute ones on TV. There's issues with the TV shows, but that's a whole nother topic. Anyway, most people know what they are now. At that time, very few people did, and there was very, very few builders. Now there is a plethora of builders of all kinds of qualities and kinds of construction and so on. At that time, at least to the best of my knowledge, when I started looking for people who built houses, tiny houses for you, there was 2 companies. There was Tumbleweed, which is based in California, but their actual manufacturing at the time was in Colorado Springs, and one in Tennessee. Tennessee is fairly far from where I am. Colorado Springs is like 10 hours from where I am, but it's much closer than Tennessee. And so I chatted with that company, actually did a 20-hour round-trip drive down there to talk to them, to the builders, in person, to see a tiny house that was on their lot at the time, and decided that yes, this is indeed a space that I feel comfortable in. I like this idea. I think I will be very happy here, and this is what I want to do. So I had to wait just a little bit once I got the design figured out, and I did start with one of their kind of basic designs and then did a lot of discussion back and forth with the builders about, but I would like to move this, and I'd like my counters in the kitchen to be longer, and I'd like the bathroom to be smaller, and can the loft have this cabinet, and I'd draw up a sketch out, can we make this happen, and they'd send one back and say, well, that won't work because of this, but what if we shift this over a little, then it would work, and so on. That was a little bit of a process, but once we signed off on the design, this is what I want, I had to wait about 2 months for them to actually build it, just because they had other previous jobs, you know, committed for other people's houses in line before me. And I actually lived in a motel for 2 months because I'd already lost my other house that I'd been renting with a friend because it was sold. And so I lived in a motel for 2 months, and then when they actually got to starting building on mine, because most of that waiting was waiting on them to be doing other people's, I believe it was 6 days to go from this flat trailer to the finished house. can see if you go back through the whatever 540 videos or something there is now, there's been some changes over the years. I've repainted the walls, I've added a wood stove, stained the exterior, and so on. So it has changed some over them. But that house itself was built very well from everything I do know of construction, from several friends of mine who are professional contractors who have been in my house. One of them even helped me drill the hole through the wall for the installing the wood stove and so on. That everything is really well built here. I have another video you can check out on how's the tiny house holding up after 5 years, if you want to see more details on all that. But basically it's an excellent shape. This is a stick-built house. It just is attached to a trailer instead of foundation on the ground, and it is built with the kind of quality that's better than most residential construction being built these days. This is not an RV. That's one difference, and they have their place for some situations, but they tend to break down and come apart over time because they are, and not even always that much time, because they are built to be very lightweight. This is not lightweight. It is not easy to move every day, but it is movable by any standard, like, large truck with a towing capability, like a 1-ton pickup. And it should be fine. Even if I didn't want to ever move it again and you just took the tires off and set it on concrete blocks or something, the house itself should be perfectly fine 100 years from now. It's not going to deteriorate or come apart. There's a roof on there that'd probably be fine for 200 or 300 years. So there's a great quality to the construction. And my personal experience working with Tumbleweed was phenomenal. Everyone I worked with on both in the office and the builders themselves on doing that whole design process to get it to fit my personal needs and wants. They were fabulous. The builders did excellent work. Even there was a warranty thing, like within the first year, that something broke in the internal heater, which I don't even use at this point, though it does work. And it was winter here. I was actually sick with the flu the weekend it went out. It was way below freezing, and they sent the closest person contractor who did work on that at their expense to fix it. And that meant they paid him to drive 7 hours each way to get here to fix my tiny house, which is pretty impressive. That's spectacular customer service. So the company I dealt with when I bought my house, I would say, is phenomenal. They had started earlier before building houses for people with just helping people design houses. The company Tumbleweed itself was started by Jay Schaefer and a friend, and then Jay Schaefer's been out of it for quite a few years doing his own thing. He's also a fascinating guy. I've got to meet him a few times, even get to share lodgings with him one year at the Tiny House Jamboree, and he is amazing. So a lot of the features in my house that I didn't adjust are Jay's original layouts and stuff, and he has just a wonderful aesthetic for wanting things to be functional and visually pleasing and all of that. So I really like Jay, and if you ever watch this, Jay, thanks for the influence of yours that went into my tiny house. So anyway, that was the company that I dealt with. Now we are quite a few years later. The builders are not the same crew at all. The guys who built my house were actually ex-Amish folks from Pennsylvania. I do know something about their general standards of work quality, having grown up in Pennsylvania myself, and they were kind of a subcontractor for Tumbleweed at the time because they were just getting into helping people build their houses, not just design them and build them themselves. Those guys are still doing their own thing now, but Tumbleweed now has their own dedicated warehouse and crew of builders and such, so none of the builders are the same. I think maybe there's one employee that's the same at the whole company. The financing model and options are different. The finishes are different. If you wanted a house just like mine today, to the best of my knowledge, they don't do it. They don't do the same kind of trailer. They don't do the same length. They don't do hardly of the same finishes, like cork floors. That was one of their standard things when I bought mine. They don't even offer that anymore. A lot of the materials at this point are... Their standard option used to be cedar siding, which is what I have on the outside. It's wonderful. Their standard option now is vinyl siding. So most of the materials and such are not the same. And just if you're looking for a builder today, right now, this is the end of 2019, and you may be watching this video in the future, I cannot say that I know anything about or have any personal experience with the current company going by the name Tumbleweed. My experience with the Tumbleweed company that I dealt with was phenomenal, and I don't know anything at all about the current company. And on that note, whether you're looking at them or any other tiny house builder company, please do your research. Look for past customers. A lot of people moving into tiny houses, even though they're generally much less expensive than big houses. Oh, and I was going to note, if you went on Tumbleweed's site today and tried to design as close as possible to with what they offer now to the house I have, it's about $10,000 more than it cost me to do this. And of course, that's quite a few years ago, and there's inflation and such, but it's about $10,000 more, and you'll have lower quality materials overall, and I'm not sure if they're doing quite as much ability to work with customization with exactly what you want at this point. They're doing more, this is our standard thing. Anyway, whatever builder you're thinking about going with, if you're not going to build it yourself, please look for reviews from past customers and possibly even recent past customers who have bought tiny houses from them. I know of a few people who have gotten incredibly had their lives somewhat somewhere between inconvenienced and destroyed by unscrupulous people. And that, of course, happens in the contractor world of big houses and monster houses and all of that as well. But from a lot of people going into a tiny house and paying someone to build it for them for whatever their list of reasons are, it's a big investment. It's usually not just like their spare change. It's for most of us, it's a significant investment in where we're planning to be living for some amount of time into the future. And I do know of several people who have gotten really kind of screwed by unscrupulous builders who took a significant amount of money, said the house will be done. The house wasn't done. They said it's coming next week, and it wasn't. Somebody finally went there, and there was nothing done. Anyway, that can be really just, not just financially, but like emotionally draining and destructive. So please, guys, if you are looking for a tiny home builder, do some research, talk to other customers, look up reviews, not just for tiny home builders, but anything. If I want to buy a new wood stove, I'd put in my name, Ariel's Wood Stove, or whatever the brand is, and I would Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever search engine you use, Ariel's Wood Stove negative reviews, Ariel's Wood Stove problems, and just see if anything comes up. See if and there's on almost everything, there's always at least one disgruntled person who's mad about something. But see if you get a whole bunch of reviews where people say, this happened, they took my money, I never got anything, Better Business Bureau went after them, lawyers went after them, I'm still sitting here in a hotel room with nowhere to live. See if that kind of thing comes up on a builder before you just look at, they have awesome pictures of awesome houses, and I want one that looks like that. Because I've even seen builder sites, guys, that show photos of, you could build a house like this, and they've included photos of my house and other people I know's house that I know that person didn't build. And possibly they can build one like it, but that's certainly at best a bit sketchy on representation when you show pictures of a house that somebody else built and say, you could have one like this, we can do it for you. And again, maybe they can, but that's being a little bit deceptive in marketing. So whoever you go with, whether you build your own, which is awesome and so cool, or if you are looking for somebody to build one for you, that was my experience. I can't say a single thing with any personal experience about the current Tumbleweed company. So if you are looking for a company to build your tiny house today, please do your research so you don't get into one of those situations, because that would be very unfortunate. I hope none of you ever do. There are lots of great builders out there. I have personally met some of them. I have met other great builders. Some of my favorites that I've personally have met and been in their tiny houses. And again, there's many out there, and there's lots of places to look for reviews and so on. But like Byron and Dot at Simplicity Tiny Homes in Colorado, they have an off-grid workshop actually where they build theirs. They have lovely work. I've been in some of theirs that are just spectacular. Jimmy at Liberation Tiny Homes in Pennsylvania. He does quite a few beautiful houses. I think they've built more than 70 tiny houses now for folks. He's very close to where I was born and grew up, actually. And there are just, there's a couple good builders in Tennessee, including ones that I had considered when originally looking at mine, and there are many others out there. I'm sure there are some fabulous ones that I am not even aware of and have never heard of, because there's so many now. But do your research. That's who built my house. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the photos of what it looked like before it looks like it does today. And if you are in the market for a builder, Best of luck in doing your research and making your dreams come true and working toward making that happen and ending up with a home that you are as happy with and can live in as contentedly as I am here in Nyth. Have a lovely day, guys. Hi folks, Ariel over here. Thanks for spending some of your valuable time watching these videos. Hopefully you found something beautiful, educational, interesting, peaceful, relaxing, or useful while you were here. If so, find more videos here, subscribe so you don't miss any updates, and if you like what you found here, feel free to like and share away so that others can benefit as well. You all have a wonderful day.